better than consulting editor Etina Swaminathan Aiyar to throw so more light on how the markets are going to absorb the election mandate and the verdict. Swami, great to have you on the show. And it seems that at least in Maharashtra, the BJP-led Mahayuti alliance is all set to form the government. I guess the markets would like that, right? It's continuity and stability.
Yes, categorically yes. It is not just that they won with such a phenomenal sweep. I mean, it's like a slap on the face of the Congress party and the India Bloc. I mean, the India Bloc did recover something by winning Jharkhand, and by winning Jharkhand quite convincingly. Whereas the opinion polls had suggested it might be a dead heat or something. No, the India Bloc has won Jharkhand convincingly. But at the end of it all, in some sense, we are left with more puzzles than answers. Why did the NDA do so well in one place and do so badly in the other? Why did the NDA do so badly in the general election in Maharashtra and so much better just 6 months later? Yes, they had this women's grant, but cash giveaways before an election have never swung elections, let alone swing it so dramatically from a very severe drubbing in the general election 6 months ago to an absolute sweep in the state election this time. But as I said, the markets will be happy. The markets will say, the markets are for the BJP. The markets are for continuity, both in Maharashtra and in India as a whole. I do not think the markets will believe that this was only won by populism. If they thought it was only won by populism, that might be a bad sign that there are fiscal problems ahead. No, they believe that Mr. Modi is not a great populist. He has to compete in giveaways with other parties. So we cannot ignore that aspect. But that is not the ethos of the party per se. The ethos rather is increasing the capacity of the private sector to grow through capex and appropriate policies. That will strengthen and that will grow, and so the market should be happy.
Now that we, of course, have this election verdict out, the party MLAs, of course, are canvassing for their own party chief to be the chief minister. What's the sense that you're getting on that front as to what we could see emerge?
I think Mr. Fadnavis would have a very good case, saying, after all, I have won so many more seats than everybody else has. And while Mr. Eknath Shinde did become chief minister earlier, because it was a price that the BJP had to pay for pulling down the earlier government head by Uddhav Thackeray. That is no longer the situation. In the current situation, what can happen? Even, after the last state election, because Uddhav Thackeray was unhappy with Fadnavis's demand for becoming chief minister, he defected to the other side to form a government. Right now, Mr. Shinde cannot do the same. They don't have the numbers. They wouldn't be able to do it. So I would say in the current circumstances, Mr. Fadnavis definitely has the upper hand. I would imagine that he will become chief minister.
Swami sir, good morning. Nikunj also joining in. And Swami sir, here, if one really looks at the recent election mandate, in Rajasthan, BJP got a thumping majority, but in Lok Sabha, they did not perform well. Similarly, in Lok Sabha, NDA or MVs did not perform well, but they got a thumping majority in the state election. Now, state elections are normally fought because of local factors. State growth, state's GDP, rural distress, farmer agitation. So even though the Maharashtrian agrarian economy and the rural economy has been under stress, the fact that NDA has come back despite a loss in Lok Sabha, what does that tell you? I mean, isn't it very confusing?
As I said, I started off by saying there are as many puzzles as lessons. And if at the end of it all, we say we are more confused than wise, I would agree with that particular assessment. Especially when you said, the huge difference between Maharashtra and Jharkhand on the one hand, and between Maharashtra's, the performance of the parties 6 months ago in the general election and now in Maharashtra. It is very difficult to explain this by any rule of thumb. But earlier on, I think there was almost an iron rule that in every state, the BJP did better in a particular state in the general election than in a state election because Mr. Modi was more popular than the party itself. That statement is no longer tenable. We saw it first in Haryana, that the party did better in a state election than in the corresponding general election. We've seen that repeated in Maharashtra. Now, the point that you made, that local factors count, yes, agreed, local factors count. But until 2024, the BJP always did better in a general election than the state election. So the local conditions earlier on were not predominant in any way. And even now, it's very difficult to argue that the local things matter, how you manage the caste equations, how you manage various other issues. All of this matters. It did not matter very much. Now, if you look at what's happened in Maharashtra, you could argue it matters hugely. On the other hand, if you look at Jharkhand, you can say, well, actually, it doesn't matter very much. They did their level best in Jharkhand. They argued that, Muslim invaders are coming in, infiltrators are coming in, Muslims are going to marry our tribal women, they're going to grab the land. None of that worked. And yet there are some people who argue that the Hindutva line was stronger this time in the Maharashtra state election, and that helped. So at the end of it all, I can only say that there are as many puzzles as lessons. I would not say there any clear-cut lesson that can be done. But what we can say is that the BJP will be happy that even where it has done badly in the general election, where Mr. Modi mattered, even where it's done badly in a general election, it can do very well in the state election. That would be extremely heartening for the BJP to say, there is much more to this party than just Mr. Narendra Modi. That is a positive.
So, Swami sir, what is next? Do you think BJP will convince that whatever they've attempted in terms of kick-starting the economy via the infrastructure route, building roads, building bridges, capital expenditure in railways, that was the right strategy and they should chug along? Or now there would be a realization that, look, capital expenditure is good, but what gets you votes essentially is job creation. So which way do you think the BJP think tank would move? Stick to its original plan or come back to perhaps the good old way of freebies?
I think they will stick to the plan. They will stick to the plan because on the general election front, while they did have some serious setback in Uttar Pradesh and in Maharashtra, overall they won a third election. And winning 3 elections in a row, it's a feat. So I think continuity is what they had already decided on. If you look at Nirmala Sitharaman's budget, I would say it's very much a budget of continuity. At the same time, had the BJP offered various freebies? And the answer is yes. It was very much in the race for freebies, even if it was not saying that this is the end all. After all, the Congress party thought it had done a big freebie by saying we will give food grains at 2 to 3 rupees a kilo. BJP took it further to say we will give it free. So I mean, what can be a greater freebie than free food for every household that needs it? So yes, the BJP is in the competition for freebies, but not to the extent of disturbing the fiscal balance or having to slash capex. I'm sure they will continue to say we must have high capex. Within that, if the tax thing is buoyant, we will also give some freebies. I mean, they understand that this is part of politics, but to them, it is not central. The central part of it is heavy investment, and they believe that heavy investment ultimately will result in more jobs. Freebies will not give you more jobs. So if the emphasis on jobs, it needs investment. So I expect the BJP to continue down that path.
Interesting. So, I mean, while markets have always taken solace from policy continuity, and, I guess they would be quite pleased with at least the Maharashtra election verdict. But other than that, what would you think would make FIIs come back to India? Because there's been quite a long patch of FII hiatus, if you will, from India equity markets. Sure enough, the state election verdict would be one data point that they would be watching out for. But other than that, when do you think this kind of growth slowdown, especially in the rural end of the economy, when do you think that's going to come back?
What the FIIs do is not determined by what happens in India. It is determined mainly by what is happening in the world as a whole. And within the world as a whole, where does India stand relative to others? Nikunj said that, India is oversold. Well, maybe in the short-term sense, but still our valuations are very high compared with that of our various rivals. Without doubt, China's valuations are more attractive even now than India's. The counter argument is that India is doing well and this future prospect perhaps look to be better than that of China's, at least in the medium term. Because of that, some money may come back. But I would simply say that India is facing the problem that valuations, when they are really high, then beyond the point, people say, just wait. It will come down at some particular point. We will get back at that point. Right now, there are opportunities elsewhere. So as I said, the best way of making money is not to pay a first-class price for a first-class share, but to pay a third-class price for a second-class share. So I think they are looking for bargains in other places where the valuations are more attractive. Instead of saying India has the best prospects, but also India has the highest valuations, okay, maybe some money. But I would still say that there is a problem of very high valuations in India. And I would frankly say there are very good opportunities in other countries too.
Always a relative game, isn't it? But Swami, great to have you on the show today. Thank you so much for your time as always.
If you like this video, then like, share and subscribe to ET Now.